Welcome back to Real Estate Simplified. Rich, Landlord Insurance. If somebody owns a rental property, we were just talking about that in the last segment. What is Landlord Insurance?
So landlord, pretty simple, it protects the landlord. So it protects their risk. So it protects let's talk house. Simple house protects the house, protects any contents that the landlord might own in the house. Quite often what we see is, couches, mainly appliances, so fridge, dishwasher, washer, dryer. Sorry, I'll go back to the building for a second. Structure, that's the main thing too, structure as well. And probably one of the more important aspects of it too is rental reimbursement. So I know it's a concern for most landlords. Hey, if there's a fire or if there's water damage that I'm covered for that causes an issue where my tenant can't live in the home, am I covered? That's a part of the landlord policy, which is very important.
Yeah, no, that's huge to have because the bank still wants their payments. So,
absolutely.
so you need the money to pay the bank. And
yes.
So a lot of people are unaware that there isn't a special policy designed for that. So how is a landlord insurance policy different from a normal just residential policy for somebody's regular home?
So there's a couple nuances. There might be some additional water coverages built into your own personal house versus a landlord policy. One of the things I do see different is vandalism. So when you're a landlord and you're dealing with tenants, vandalism is one of those coverages that you may actually see excluded from the policy. People often say, why is that excluded? You're in charge of your tenants. You should be vetting them properly, doing credit checks and that kind of stuff to make sure you've got an adequate tenant in there is not going to destroy the house. So those are the kind of things we see. Instead of rental reimbursement, your personal home, what we're going to see is additional living expenses, which I feel is a very important aspect of your home insurance policy. Why? If you have a devastating fire, I'll take fire, the last thing you want to worry about is where am I going to sleep tonight? Especially if it's Friday night, midnight and your house is on fire. I tell my clients right away when they sign up for the policy, if that ever happens to you, go to a hotel, check into a hotel because we are going to cover that. That's one thing we're going to cover, so you don't have to worry about that. Get some food, get some clothing. That's a part of your claim. So that's one of the nuances we see as well.
No, that's perfect. And Erwin, when it comes to tenants, the landlord insurance policy won't cover the tenant's belongings. So what can tenants do, or what can landlords, suggest tenants do to protect themselves and their assets?
A good idea would be to have before you hand over the keys to a tenant, assuming they haven't moved in yet, is to strongly suggest that they have their own insurance and then explain to them what happens if they don't. So I have a scary story. Hope it's okay.
Scarier the better.
I have clients, they own a duplex, and one of the tenants was smoking outside the property. I believe it's their guest, which was their brother, one of the tenants. They discarded the cigarettes right next to the property, and they caused a house fire, right? And, so that a quarter of the house was gone, the roof was gone. And now who is the insurance company going to come after for money, right? They're going to come after the tenant, right, Rich? Right.
Yes.
So it's a good idea that, you say to the tenant, you might not do anything. One of your guests might do something. So it's a good idea you have some tenant insurance. And then, Rich, do you know how much tenant insurance is?
Average, you're looking at annual, depends on how much contents coverage you want, but you're looking at maybe $250 to $300 on average annually.
Yeah, so it's really cheap.
Oh, it's very cheap.
Right.
Yes.
And like you're saying before, if there is a fire, that will cover your accommodation, right?
Absolutely. Even for the tenants, it builds that coverage in there as well too. The tenants have coverage for a hotel, but it covers, once again, their contents and their liability. Because if they caused it, then the owner's going to come after them.
Yeah. And these things happen. And then my client's story, the tenant didn't have insurance. The tenant that was affected by the fire, who had nothing to do with it because it's duplex. They were the completely innocent party. They didn't have tenant insurance, so they came back to the landlord for hotel costs, right? So you can avoid all this by strongly encouraging everyone to have their own tenant insurance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Plus, if you're a tenant, you have valuables in your home, you have prized possessions, and if that all goes up, damaged by flood or a fire, you want to be reimbursed so you can replace all those items.
Yeah, and tenants often have nicer TVs than me. Yeah, and I have student rentals where they have nicer shoes than I do. Like 500 Yeezys or whatever. I don't even know all these young people are doing. But yeah, insure those things. They're expensive.
Yeah, 100%. So Rich, if you're a landlord, then how do you start the process of let's say you're looking to purchase your first ever rental property, you're brand new. How do you even start the process with your insurance broker to get the ball rolling?
First, call us. Give us a listing if you have it, so at least we can have a general idea of what you're buying. And then at that point, we can guide you. And because if we notice there's 2 units in the house or something in the basement, a room in the basement, our concern is first, is it legal? When I say legal, I know my concern is the windows. Like, is there windows for someone, a secondary access point where someone can actually get out of the house? So those are the things we're starting to look for, and that's what I would relay back to the insured. Check out the appliances, make sure all the utilities are up to date. So once again, you don't have any issues once you have that renter or tenant in there, and then make sure it's all legal for what you're looking to do.
Yeah, and even during the offer process, or maybe you can touch on this, how important is it to make sure that if you are buying a property with the accessory apartment, to make sure it is legal and you have all the permits?
It's incredibly legal because for the financing purposes, so most banks will not recognize the basement. If the basement apartment is not legal, they won't recognize any income from it. Therefore, they'll give you a smaller mortgage. And if you can afford a bigger mortgage, generally those properties are worth more money. So if you're going to pay a lot of money for something with a basement apartment you think is legal, make sure you have proof that it is legal. And then from an insurance perspective, if anyone gets hurt in that property and that basement was done improperly, who do you think is going to be in a whole lot of trouble? And the insurance company, as far as I know, will not replace that basement apartment the way it was, because if it was not done if it was done without permits. But then at the end of the day, you don't want anyone to get hurt in your property. Like, I would be devastated. That's why I've done everything above board. I have permits for everything, and it's incredibly wise to have all the documentation available when you do go resell your home, because you will get more money. And I think everyone would like more money when they sell their property.
100%. Well, that was great stuff, guys. So Rich, Erwin, thanks so much for joining us today. And thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Simplified. I'm Seth Ferguson. See you next time.